Did you know that while 76% of Americans claim to follow a budget, studies show only about 33% actually stick to it consistently? It's not surprising that so many struggle with financial freedom. The problem isn't just about having a budget. It's about understanding the deeper psychology and habits that financially free people have mastered. These aren't just ordinary budgeting tips. They're transformative approaches that can completely change your relationship with money. The secrets of financially free people aren't complicated, but they are eye-opening because they challenge conventional thinking about how we manage our finances. In this video, we'll reveal the budgeting secrets that financially free people use every day. Secrets that most financial advisors won't tell you because they're too focused on investment returns rather than your daily money habits. Whether you're drowning in debt, living paycheck to paycheck, or simply want to accelerate your path to financial independence, these insights will give you a completely new perspective on budgeting. So if you're new to our channel, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our wealth building content. Let's begin with perhaps the most counterintuitive secret. They don't budget, they automate. This might sound contradictory in a video about budgeting secrets, but financially free people rarely spend hours meticulously tracking every dollar. Instead, they create systems that do the work for them. They understand that willpower is finite and that human psychology often works against traditional budgeting methods. Traditional budgeting relies on constant decision-making and discipline, which depletes your mental energy over time and often leads to budget fatigue. What financially free people do instead is set up automated systems that route their money where it needs to go before they ever see it. This approach aligns perfectly with behavioral economist Richard Thaler's principle of choice architecture, designing your environment to make good decisions easier and bad decisions harder. When your finances are automated, you're essentially removing the opportunity to make poor financial choices. Here's how they do it. First, they automate their savings and investments. Money automatically transfers from their paycheck to retirement accounts, investment portfolios, and emergency funds. Second, they automate bill payments to ensure nothing is ever late or missed. Third, they automate debt repayments, often paying more than the minimum to accelerate becoming debt-free. The beauty of automation is that it requires upfront effort, but then works silently in the background. As behavioral finance expert Dan Ariely says, if you want people to lose weight, you can force them to diet, or you can remove the elevators and only have stairs. Automation is like removing the elevators from your financial life. It makes the right path the path of least resistance. Financially free people know they're not immune to impulse purchases or emotional spending. Rather than fighting these tendencies with willpower alone, they design systems that protect them from themselves. This might mean having separate accounts for different purposes, or using apps that impose artificial delays on purchases above a certain threshold. They're not superhuman with their discipline. They're just strategic about recognizing and working around human nature. Now, let's move on to another eye-opening secret. They focus on value, not price. One of the most revealing differences between financially struggling people and financially free people is how they evaluate purchases. Those struggling often make decisions based primarily on price, choosing the cheapest option available. Meanwhile, financially free people approach spending with a completely different mindset. They focus on value over time, not just the initial cost. This value-focused approach means sometimes spending more upfront for something that will last longer or provide greater utility over time. For example, buying a quality pair of shoes for $200 that lasts 5 years instead of a $50 pair that needs replacing every 6 months. Over 5 years, the expensive shoes cost $200, while the cheap shoes cost $500. This is what financially savvy people call cost per use thinking. Another aspect of this value mindset is recognizing that time is your most precious resource. Financially free people aren't afraid to spend money on things that give them back time. This might mean hiring help for household tasks, paying for convenient transportation, or investing in tools and technologies that increase their efficiency. They understand that saving time often allows them to earn more, or simply enjoy life more fully. As Warren Buffett wisely noted, price is what you pay, value is what you get. Financially free people have internalized this distinction. They aren't cheapskates who pinch pennies on everything. Instead, they're strategic about where their money goes. They might be incredibly frugal in areas that don't matter much to them, while spending generously in categories that bring them joy or advancement. This approach also extends to investments in themselves. While those struggling financially often see education, coaching, or skill development as expenses, financially free people see them as investments with potentially unlimited returns. They understand that increasing their knowledge, skills, or network can pay dividends far exceeding the initial cost. Another crucial secret that financially free people understand is they budget for happiness, not restriction. Traditional budgeting feels restrictive because it focuses on what you can't have. It's all about cutting expenses and saying no to things you want. This approach might work in the short term, but it's psychologically unsustainable. Much like crash dieting rarely leads to long-term weight management, financially free people take a fundamentally different approach. They budget for happiness rather than restriction. What does budgeting for happiness look like? It starts with identifying what truly brings you joy and fulfillment, then deliberately allocating money toward those things while cutting ruthlessly in areas that don't impact your happiness. This might mean spending very little on a car or housing, but allocating significant funds for travel, if that's what brings you joy. Or it could mean living in an expensive city, but rarely eating out, if proximity to cultural activities matters more to you than dining experiences. Financially free people also build what many call fun money, or no questions asked funds, into their budgets. This is money specifically designated for spontaneous or discretionary spending without guilt. Having this allocation prevents the feeling of deprivation that often leads to budget abandonment. As personal finance expert Ramit Sethi puts it, the goal isn't to cut spending on everything. The goal is to cut spending on things you don't care about, so you can spend on the things you love. Another happiness-focused budgeting technique is what some call paying yourself first. This means allocating funds for your future goals before budgeting for current expenses. When you know you're making progress toward meaningful long-term objectives, the small sacrifices in day-to-day spending feel purposeful rather than punitive. This creates a positive feedback loop where budgeting becomes associated with achievement rather than restriction. Financially free people also understand that spending can increase happiness when it aligns with their values and is done mindfully. Research from Harvard Business School suggests that spending on experiences rather than material goods and spending on others rather than yourself both lead to greater happiness. Incorporating these insights into your budget can transform it from a restrictive plan into a blueprint for a more fulfilling life. Let's move on to a secret that might surprise you. They don't just track expenses, they track net worth. While most budgeting advice focuses exclusively on monitoring your monthly spending, financially free people are much more concerned with tracking their net worth. This shift in focus creates a completely different financial mindset. When you track expenses alone, you're focused on scarcity and limitation. When you track net worth, you're focused on growth and possibility. Net worth, which is your assets minus your liabilities, provides a more comprehensive picture of your financial health than your spending habits alone. It helps you see the impact of major financial decisions and recognize progress that might be invisible in a monthly budget. For example, mortgage payments might feel like an expense in a traditional budget, but they're partially building equity, something only visible when tracking net worth. Tracking net worth also helps financially free people make better decisions about debt. Not all debt is created equal, and net worth tracking makes this clear. Taking on a student loan that increases your earning potential or a mortgage for a property that appreciates might temporarily decrease your net worth, but lead to growth over time. Meanwhile, consumer debt for depreciating assets clearly harms your financial position when viewed through the net worth lens. Another benefit of this approach is that it encourages long-term thinking. Monthly budgets focus on 30-day cycles, while net worth inherently takes a longer view. Financially free people understand that building wealth is a marathon, not a sprint, and they measure progress in years and decades, not months. This prevents the discouragement that often comes from slow initial progress. As financial educator Morgan Housel notes, wealth is the nice cars not purchased, the diamonds not bought, the watches not worn, the clothes forgone, and the first-class upgrade declined. Tracking net worth helps you see the value of these non-purchases in a way that expense tracking simply cannot. Our final eye-opening secret is particularly powerful. They practice zero-based income, not zero-based budgeting. Traditional budgeting often promotes the concept of zero-based budgeting, where every dollar is assigned a job until you reach zero. While this can be effective, financially free people take this concept a step further with what I call zero-based income, a mindset that completely transforms how they view earning potential. Zero-based income means never being satisfied with a single income stream or a fixed salary. Financially free people don't limit their earning potential to their job. They constantly look for ways to generate additional income through side businesses, investments, or monetizing their skills and passions. They see income as something they can actively increase, not just a fixed amount to be carefully allocated. This approach creates a powerful abundance mindset rather than the scarcity mindset that traditional budgeting often reinforces. Instead of asking, how can I cut my expenses to fit my income? They ask, how can I increase my income to fund the life I want? This doesn't mean they're careless with spending, quite the opposite. They're often very intentional about expenses precisely because they value each dollar as a potential wealth-building tool. Financially free people understand that there's a limit to how much you can reduce expenses, but there's virtually no ceiling on how much you can increase your income. They apply their creativity and energy to the income side of the equation while being efficient with expenses. As entrepreneur Jim Rohn famously said, "Profits are better than wages. Wages make you a living. Profits make you a fortune." This zero-based income approach also provides resilience against financial setbacks. With multiple income streams, financially free people aren't devastated by job loss or economic downturns. They've built redundancy into their financial systems that allows them to weather storms that might sink others. Additionally, they're constantly investing in assets that generate passive income, rental properties, dividend stocks, or businesses with systems that don't require their direct involvement. This creates a virtuous cycle where money makes more money, accelerating their path to financial freedom. These budgeting secrets of financially free people truly are eye-opening because they represent a fundamental shift in how we think about money. They move us from restriction to abundance, from short-term thinking to long-term vision, and from passive acceptance to active creation of our financial reality. The good news is that anyone can adopt these principles, regardless of their current financial situation. It's not about how much money you make, but how you think about and manage the money you have. If you found value in these insights, please hit the like button and share this video with someone who might benefit from it. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more content on building wealth and achieving financial freedom. Comment below which of these secrets resonated with you the most, or what other financial topics you'd like us to cover in future videos. Thank you for watching, and remember, financial freedom isn't just about having more money. It's about having more choices in how you live your life.